All right, in this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to get started on your lab, your layout lab. And I've already done some work to get started on this. I've created a folder on my desktop called Div Practice. And inside there, I have a style sheet, and I also have a file called layout1.html. When I look at my lab, it shows that I need to, for my first layout, I need to have a wrapper that's 900 pixels. So that's the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my style sheet and I'm going to define my wrapper. It's going to be an ID. And you guys have done this for your About Me website. So all of these layout examples need to have wrappers. And this wrapper is going to have a width of 900 pixels. And I do want it to be centered. And remember, in order to center it, you need to put a margin left of auto and a margin right of auto. And I believe that I wanted the top margin to be 40 pixels as well. So doing a margin top will just make the top of the page have a margin of 40 pixels. So that's my wrapper. I need to go into my source code and add that in. So now I have a div ID equals wrapper. And I'm going to put everything within that wrapper, all of my different elements. So when I look at my lab assignment, it shows that I have a header that has a height of 200. So that's the first thing that I need to do. I do not need to make my header an ID because remember, header is one of those keywords we have in our page that already is like an ID. It just has the keyword called header. So I know I want the height of this to be 200 pixels, and I need to make the background color something so that I can actually see it. If I don't do that, I won't really know if I have the right size. So you can always take these background colors out after you have the page layout finished on your site. So I have a header, and then I'm going to go into my source code, and inside my ID, I'm going to put in my header. My header is defined in my CSS, and then I'm going to put some text that says this is where my header content will go. And I'm going to save that. And then I'm going to refresh this page. Actually, I'm going to open up the page because I don't have the right one opened. And it's in my layout. It is in my div practice folder, and it's called layout 1. So now I am starting to make this. I don't care if you have the right colors. So you know how this is colored green, blue, yellow, and like a olive color. You do not have to have these colors. You can make your colors anything you want. But I'm on my way. You can see that I have my header here. And now I need to get my navigation and my content going. So I'm going to go back in and I'm going to make my navigation, which remember the keyword for navigation is nav. And this one needs to have a width of 300 and a height of 460. So I'm going to go ahead and make the width needs to be 300, the height 460. And I'm going to give this a background color as well. And we'll go ahead and go with chocolate. Now I need to add this into my source code. So after my head, inside my wrapper, after my header, I will have my nav. And I'm going to put some text in here that says this is where my navigation content will go. And I'm just going to go ahead and save this and preview it and see what happens. And it looks pretty good now. I've got my header and then I have my navigation. But now I need to put something over here, which is going to be my main content. So if I look at the quiz or the lab that we have, I will be giving you a quiz grade for this. I have a content and I have a width of 540 and a height of 400. So I'm going to go back to my style sheet and I'm going to make one called main. And my main is going to have a width and it's going to have a height and it's going to have my width is going to be 540. And my height is going to be 460. And I need to make sure I put pixels there. And looking at the quiz, it also looks like it needs to have a padding of 30 pixels all around. So I'm going to go ahead and say padding 30 pixels. And that's going to be my main. I know I'm going to need this to float to the right side of the screen. And my nav, I'm going to need it to float to the left side of the screen. I'm going to go back to my source code and I'm going to make sure I put my main in. And I'm going to say this is where my main content will go. I'm going to save it and I'm going to go back and refresh. And you can see that I'm having, did I give it a background color? I did not give it a background color. So that's what happens if you don't give it a background color. It appears that I did this right. However, I can't really tell the size of that box because I didn't give it a background color. So I'm going to go back in and I'm going to say background color and we'll give it a color. And I'll save it and I'll refresh it. And now it looks like I've done an okay job, except because I've put padding in, it's made this element a little too tall. So I need to go ahead and figure out how to change that. So it looks like the height of my nav is 460, and with this padding, it's giving me 60 extra pixels. So I'm going to pull my height of my main down to 400. And what that's going to do is it's going to shorten that up for me. So now the last thing that I need to do is I need to put in a footer. And it looks like with this footer, it needs to be 100 pixels tall. If I put it within the wrapper, I don't actually have to give it a width because it'll take up the width of the element it's in. So now I'm going to do footer. And it appears that I need the height of 100 pixels. And I'm going to give it a background color of dark green. And then I'm going to go over here, and after my main, I'm going to have a footer. And I'm going to say this is where my footer content will go. I'm going to save it. I'm going to save the style sheet. I'm going to go back. And it appears as if my footer's here, but I do not have a background color, even though I've given it a background color. So what's happening is, remember how we talked about floats? Because we floated this to the right, now my footer's gotten a little weird. And I think my footer's actually all the way at the top. So what I need to do is I need to clear those floats. So I'm going to go to my footer. And because my main and my nav were floated, I'm going to go to clear and I'm going to choose both. And by doing that, it moves my footer down, and now I have my first layout completed. So what I've done here is I've got my header, my nav, my main, and my footer. And I made sure that I floated my nav to the left, which is why it's on the left side. I floated my main to the right, and now my footer, I had to clear both of the floats so it went back down into normal order because the normal flow was interrupted with those floats. Now I finished layout number 1. You're going to need to do layout number 2 and layout number 3. So here's layout number 2. You're going to want to play with floats here for this top part. And here's layout number 3 with our navigation all the way over on the left and a header, content, and our footer. So you're going to have 3 layouts total. Once you're done with the layouts, it would be nice if you could link to all of them and put a little nav bar at the top of your code. So at the very top, I could do layout 1. And then I can say layout 2. and layout 3. So now I've got a little nav bar here. So I will link to layout 1, layout 2, layout 3 so that I can get to them. And you can turn this lab in at the end. Again, you can watch this video more than one time to get the first layout. I've given it to you already. To get to the second and the third, you're going to have to do those on your own by working with your different items, the width, the height, and if you float your elements or not. And essentially what you have is you've created some very basic wireframes for a website layout. When you are finished with this assignment, you're going to upload the entire root folder, which is called div practice. And div practice is going to get uploaded to the Home2 server. If you have any questions, feel free to email me, and I am more than happy to answer your questions. Thanks.